We're coming in hard and heavy this Monster Monday. Even calling it a wrecking ball might honestly be underselling it. It is, of course, the best way to start your week, and what a strong start it is. Make way for the Titanic Trampler, the solo stampede on two legs, the unstoppable Dreadnought.
Read these words and go from this place, a human juggernaut!
Before we begin, we're now on Patreon. You can get builds and monsters 3 weeks early there, as well as unique items and extra content. Even a little bit helps us go a long way. At its core, this concept is inspired by one of my favorite character archetypes, armored, larger-than-life characters. Obvious inspirations are Juggernaut from Marvel Comics, Scion from League of Legends, and other such heavily armored giants, with mine being masterfully illustrated by Marty. That gets mixed in just a tiny bit with the likes of super soldiers and perhaps even flesh warping when it comes to Galarian. Though think less Mr. Rogers and way more Emil Blonsky. Dreadnoughts are created from humanoids with a mix of alchemical treatments and layered magical enhancements, which has left them permanently enlarged, and they are then further bonded to their armor. Personally, I have this armor being removable, but you could absolutely go for the Dreadnought being sealed in its suit, a la OG Rhino or Scorpion. My concept is that Dreadnoughts are typically used in armies and the likes, where they wade through the battle and smash through enemy lines. As such, I wanted the Dreadnought to be a menace to a squad of soldiers, though maybe not the elite sorts. With that being the case, level 10 is seated comfortably between the line infantry's level 6 and the first class infantry's level 13. I then went light on the traits, keeping it to mutant and humanoid because I want you, the GM, to decide what your Dreadnought was created from, whether that be human, dwarf, orc, or even a gnome. Our super soldier is certainly stacked, as we'll see, with a supreme extreme strength as its primary ability score, trying to emulate the monstrous strength of the creatures that inspired it. It accompanies that with a high constitution, after which our abilities start to take a bit of a tumble. We're down to a moderate value for its wisdom, which might lean a bit more into cap I suppose, while its remaining ability scores are low or lower, though all still in the positive. Now, despite that moderate wisdom, the Dreadnought is a bit of a burly, bulky brute, and as such uses a low perception. I did note here that it has low light vision with this, which is at least something I would include regardless of starting ancestry. Try to represent a bit of its mutation. It does also actually come with a host of skills as well, but the only one that really, truly matters is its extreme athletics. I think it's safe to use one extreme value on a level 10 creature, and this is honestly super imperative to its whole kit. Now, as a Brutish soldier, it does have intimidation and warfare lore both at a moderate value, while I used low values for its remaining survival and crafting. The last of which is just so that the Dreadnought can fix up its own armor when it takes on damages. I wanted to lean into the Dreadnought's heavy armor, leading to a high armor class, but I didn't want to overload its defenses, especially because I also wanted to make it a mighty martial in melee. This led to me settling on a moderate pool of hit points, although it does have a low resistance to all physical damage from its mutations and armor alike. Honestly, I did really want to use a high pool of hit points, but thought it would just be too much. I was honestly even still worried as I got into its saving throws. You can see this because while it has a high fortitude bonus, its reflex save and will save are both low. I definitely wanted there to be some weaknesses in its kit, which, notably, my players in the monster match were absolutely not equipped to target. That will bring us to its offense abilities, and this is honestly even simpler. The Dreadnought has a single strike, its fist. If you prefer your Dreadnoughts armed, such as Captain Farron from LOR or somebody similar, feel free to equip them with such. But I love the idea of the Dreadnought waiting in a battle with naught but its gauntlets. Now, sticking with the brute design, these have a high attack bonus, use only the reach trait, and then also deal a high amount of damage. As I said, I wanted my Dreadnought to be a big, beefy boy, which meant I wanted to keep its offenses and defenses in a similar playing field, and why I ultimately went for 2 low saving throws. Just all of that push and pull. Speaking of, this strike does also have improved grab or improved push. Having improved maneuvers seems fine for a level 10 creature, and helps to portray the monstrous physicality of our stampeding soldier. Speaking of, I think it's about time to get into abilities. Now, first things first, I want to handle some bookkeeping functions such as its bonded armor. This is something you can partially skip if you're going for the idea of the Dreadnought being stuck in its armor, but I think I was a bit more in the mood of Juggernaut rather than Rhino. Aside from the resistance this grants, its big boon is the constant effects of instant armor, meaning that even if the players try to catch the Dreadnought unaware, it can swiftly get back in its battle rattle. We find another passive effect, and one that might honestly be a little bit overloaded, in the form of unstoppable force. All these effects feel pretty much natural to this concept, but maybe I should have split them up a bit more. It allows the Dreadnought to build up momentum so that it can move through difficult terrain with less issue, power its punches with its propulsion, and be so set on moving forward that others trying to make him move struggle to do so. Very, very Juggernaut coded, which is entirely intentional. While we can now start getting into its activated abilities, we'll still start simple with the likes of the standard Reactive Strike, since the Dreadnought is a soldier, as well as then the Trample ability. I actually originally gave the Dreadnought the Barbarian's Barreling Charge, but I was halfway typing through it and I was like, what am I doing? This is a monster, I can just give it Trample. Which I did design with a high DC. Its damage is based on its fist, which notably their average damage is just a bit above its unlimited use area damage, but well below its limited use area damage. Although I skipped on the Barreling Charge, I did draw heavily from Bashing Charge to make my Sundering Charge. How many more times can I say charge this video, and how many do I have left before it loses all meaning? This initially resembles our Barbarian feat, though the Dreadnought has to build up sufficient momentum before it can get the bonus on its athletics check. However, beyond that, if the Dreadnought succeeds on its check, it causes the obstacle to collapse or erupt as shrapnel towards those on the other side of it, typically dealing unlimited use area damage at a high DC. Obviously, this leaves behind difficult terrain that needs to be cleared away, but one thing I should mention. This is baseline design for the Dreadnought to Kool-Aid Man its way through a wall. Oh yeah! But as detailed in my sidebar, feel free to adjust the damage type and even area effect depending on what it is the Dreadnought crashes into or through. Stepping away from its movement-based abilities for just 1 second, we've got Body Strike. I referenced Cedo Prilu for this one, and I actually don't think this is the first time that I've used it. Either way, this is inspired by the sheer immensity of our Mountain of a Man, as it wields its captured victims as weapons. When it does so, it can make a strike with a high attack bonus, though one that only deals moderate damage. The decision to use moderate damage comes from the fact that half of this damage dealt on the hit is also dealt to the grabbed creature. If it was still high damage, this would just always be better than its fist. I think doing it this way balances them out a bit, and gives a reason to using either strike depending on the situation. To finish things off, we've got to go big. And what's bigger than another 3-action ability? I think this is usually pretty rare on critters having 2 3-action abilities, but this and its Trample fill some very different roles and functions. When using the Slamming Stampede, the Dreadnought is locked into moving in a straight line, and as it begins to do so, it can attempt to grapple a creature in its lineup. Now notably, if this check fails, which admittedly isn't super likely, it just stops in its dash, wastes its whole 3 actions there. But if it succeeds, it picks that creature's up and carries it with it and through some potential walls. The Dreadnought can continue moving, and rather than trying to force open, which I think could become a hassle to roll for every attempt, it automatically smashes through any structures of its level's hardness or lower, which should let our take on the Dreadnought tear through wooden walls and weaker, but not full-on stone walls. Then, for each wall or other obstacle passed through, the Dreadnought deals 2d12 bludgeoning damage to its victim with a high DC Fortitude save. I did put a cap on this because we were worried about a Dreadnought running rampant through a mansion, or other densely packed hallways, and I did further apply a short cooldown to it, as the Dreadnought reorients itself after crashing through multiple walls. Mean and on the scene, our Dreadnought is done. Tucked in titanium, this towering and temperamental titan tramples teams and terrain with total temerity, tending to turn troopers into targets. I love my big armored brutes that just crash and smash their way through everything. There's actually a Bebop and Rocksteady theme that always comes to mind for me, and the Dreadnought is my love letter to those types of characters. For some interesting encounters, you might run a mass battle where the heroes have to contend with a Dreadnought that the general forces are struggling with. Or they might find themselves on the wrong side of the guard who happen to have a Dreadnought on the payroll. Let me know what you think of my creature and what other monsters I should make. If you dig this one, let me know with a like and a subscribe. I want to give a big thanks to the folks on the Patreon, with a special shout out to the Orc Overlords. That being Decaffeinate, Robert Miller, Shy Benster, and Vorthus. You too could head on over there for early access to the vids and extra content. Either way, thanks for watching and have a monstrous Monday.
Don't you know who I am? I'm the Juggernaut, bitch!